some stories don't just get told, they stay with you. And this is one of them. If you love emotional, shocking, real-life stories, welcome. You're going to feel at home here. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and if this story hits you, leave a like. It helps more than you think. Now, let's begin. That was the new normal. Their daughter, Claire, was upstairs packing for college. Claire had barely spoken to Alina in a week. The silence in the house was heavier than any shouting ever was. Alina turned on the coffee maker out of habit. She poured a cup and did not drink it. Her hands were shaking for no reason she could name. The doctor said it was stress. The doctor said she needed to rest, but rest was a luxury she could not afford. Across the table, a stack of unopened mail sat like an accusation. Among the envelopes was a letter from her mother's nursing home. Alina had not visited her mother in 2 months. The guilt was a familiar blanket now. She heard footsteps on the stairs. Claire appeared in the doorway, holding 2 heavy suitcases. Her hair was wet from the shower. Her eyes were red, though she had not been crying in front of her mother. "I'm ready," Claire said. Her voice was flat. Alina nodded slowly. "Did you pack your asthma medication?" "Yes, and the charger for your laptop." "Mom, I'm not a child." The words hung in the air like broken glass. Claire immediately looked away. She did not apologize. Alina did not ask her to. Outside, a car horn honked twice. That would be Michael, Claire's boyfriend, waiting in his old blue pickup truck. Claire picked up her suitcases and walked toward the front door. Halfway there, she stopped. She turned around but still did not meet Alina's eyes. "Dad isn't coming to say goodbye, is he?" Alina shook her head. "He's at work." "It's Saturday," Claire said. Alina had no answer for that. Claire opened the front door. The sound of rain filled the hallway. She stepped outside without another word. The door closed softly behind her. Alina watched through the window as Michael loaded the suitcases into the truck. Claire climbed into the passenger seat. The truck pulled away slowly, tires splashing through puddles. Alina raised a hand to wave, but the truck was already too far. She stood there for a long time. Then she walked back to the kitchen and finally drank the cold coffee. The house creaked around her. It sounded like something breaking. Her phone buzzed on the counter, a text from Daniel, "Working late, don't wait up." No emoji, no love you. Just 7 words. Alina typed back, "Claire left for college." She waited. 3 minutes passed. Daniel read the message but did not reply. Alina put the phone down. She looked at the letter from the nursing home again. Her mother's name was Margaret. Margaret had Alzheimer's. Sometimes she remembered Alina. Sometimes she screamed at a nurse that her daughter was dead. Alina had stopped correcting her. It was easier to be dead than to be a disappointment. She opened the letter. The nursing home was raising fees again. They needed an additional $200 per week. Alina folded the letter carefully. She placed it back in the envelope. Then she went upstairs to the bedroom she no longer shared with Daniel. He had moved into the guest room 6 months ago. They had not discussed it. One night he simply took his pillow and left. Elinor lay down on the bed fully dressed. The rain continued to fall. She closed her eyes and tried to remember the last time Daniel had kissed her. It was after Claire's high school graduation. A quick peck on the cheek. Someone had taken a photograph. Daniel was looking at the camera. Elinor was looking at Daniel. That was a year ago. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Claire. One sentence. "I'm going to be fine, Mom. Promise." Elinor smiled for the first time that day. She typed back, "I know you will. I love you." Claire replied with a single heart emoji. It was not nothing. It was not everything. But it was something. Elinor held the phone to her chest like a child holding a stuffed animal. The rain stopped at exactly 4:17 p.m. Sunlight broke through the clouds. It illuminated the dust motes floating in the bedroom. Elinor watched them drift. She thought about her mother, who no longer knew her. She thought about her husband, who no longer wanted her. She thought about her daughter, who was driving away toward a new life. And for the first time in a very long time, Elinor Harper wondered what her own life was supposed to look like now. She had no answer, but the sunlight was warm on her face. She stayed there until the room grew dark. Daniel Harper sat in his parked car outside the office. He had told Elinor he was working late. That was a lie. The office was empty. It was Saturday. He had been sitting in the driver's seat for 40 minutes. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still gray. He looked at his phone. Elinor's message about Claire was still there. He had read it 4 times. He had not replied. He did not know what to say. Claire was his daughter. He loved her. That was not the problem. The problem was that every time he looked at Claire, he saw Elinor. The same stubborn chin, the same way of tilting her head when she was angry, the same sadness behind the eyes. Daniel had stopped being able to look at either of them. It was easier to disappear into work. He worked for a real estate development firm. He had been there for 19 years. They promoted him to senior vice president 2 years ago. The raise was good. The stress was better. Stress gave him an excuse. He could say he was tired. He could say he had back-to-back meetings. He could say anything, and Elinor would nod and walk away. She had stopped fighting years ago. That was what scared him the most. He remembered the early years. Elinor used to throw pillows at him when she was angry. She used to leave angry notes in his briefcase. She used to care. Now she moved through the house like a ghost. He did the same. They were 2 ghosts sharing a haunted place. Daniel finally got out of the car. He walked into the office building. The security guard looked surprised. "Working weekend, Mr. Harper?" Daniel nodded. He did not explain. He took the elevator to the 7th floor. His office had a large window facing the highway. He could see cars moving slowly in the distance. Somewhere on that highway, Claire was driving to college. She was going to State University, 3 hours away. She had wanted to go further. She had applied to schools in California and New York. Eleanor had cried when Claire mentioned moving across the country. Daniel had said nothing. So Claire stayed close. She did not say it was because of them, but Daniel knew. He sat down at his desk. The computer screen glowed to life. He opened a spreadsheet of quarterly projections. The numbers blurred in front of his eyes. He closed the spreadsheet. He opened his email. There was a message from his brother, Stephen. Stephen lived in Florida. They spoke twice a year. The email was short. "Call me when you can. It's about Mom." Their mother, Ruth, was 78 years old. She lived alone in Tampa. She had fallen twice in the last month. She told no one. The neighbor told Stephen. Stephen told Daniel. That was how their family worked. Bad news traveled through middlemen. Daniel deleted the email without replying. He would call Stephen tomorrow. Maybe his phone buzzed. He expected Eleanor. It was not Eleanor. It was a woman named Rachel. The contact photo showed a smiling face with blonde hair. Rachel was an architect. They had met at a construction site 6 months ago. Nothing had happened, not yet, but Daniel had thought about it. He had thought about it more than he wanted to admit. The message said, "Drinks this week, the usual place." Daniel stared at the screen. His thumb hovered over the keyboard. He typed, "Maybe Tuesday." Then he deleted it. He typed, "Can't, busy." He deleted that too. He put the phone face down on the desk. The rain started again. It tapped against the window like small fingers. Daniel leaned back in his chair. He closed his eyes. He thought about the day Claire was born. Eleanor had been in labor for 16 hours. He held her hand the whole time. She broke 3 of his fingers. He did not let go. When the doctor placed Claire in his arms, he cried. He was not a man who cried, but he cried that day. He promised himself he would be a good father. He promised himself he would be a good husband. Those promises felt like they belonged to someone else now. He opened his eyes. The office was dark except for the glow of the computer. He looked at the framed photo on his desk. It was from Claire's 10th birthday. She was wearing a princess crown and holding a purple cake. Eleanor was next to her, laughing. Daniel was behind them both, his hands on their shoulders. Everyone looked happy. He could not remember if they actually were. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Eleanor. One sentence, "I'm going to see Mom tomorrow. Do you want to come?" His mother, not her mother. Eleanor still called Margaret Mom. Daniel had never liked Margaret. Margaret had never liked him. They tolerated each other for 20 years. Now Margaret did not remember anyone. Visiting her was pointless. Daniel typed back, "I have a site visit tomorrow. Can't." Eleanor replied almost immediately, "Okay, just okay." No argument, no disappointment, just acceptance. That was worse than any fight. Daniel stood up. He walked to the window. The highway was still full of cars. Claire was somewhere on that highway. She was probably listening to music. She was probably holding Michael's hand. She was probably not thinking about her father at all. That hurt more than he expected. He picked up his phone again. He opened Claire's contact. He typed, "I'm proud of you, sweetheart. Call me when you get there." He stared at the words. They looked fake. They sounded like something a father in a movie would say. He deleted the message. He put on his jacket. He turned off the computer. He walked out of the office without saying goodbye to the security guard. The rain was heavy now. He got into his car and drove home. The house was dark when he arrived. Eleanor had gone to bed. He parked in the garage and sat in the dark. The empty space in the driveway where Claire's car used to be was now just a wet patch off concrete. Daniel closed his eyes. He did not go inside for another hour. Eleanor arrived at the nursing home at 10:47 a.m. The building smelled of bleach and boiled vegetables. She hated that smell. It clung to her clothes for hours after every visit. The receptionist, a heavy-set woman named Denise, waved without smiling. "She's having a good day," Denise said. Eleanor knew what that meant. A good day meant Margaret recognized people. A bad day meant Margaret screamed or threw things. Eleanor signed the visitor log. She walked down the long hallway to room 117. The door was already open. Margaret sat in a wheelchair by the window. Her white hair was thin and delicate. Her hands rested on a crocheted blanket. She was staring at a bird outside. Eleanor stopped in the doorway. She watched her mother for a moment. Margaret looked small. She had always been small, but now she looked shrunken, like a fruit left too long in the sun. "Hi, Mom," Eleanor said softly. Margaret turned her head slowly. Her eyes focused on Eleanor's face. For a terrible moment, there was nothing, no recognition, no warmth, just emptiness. Then Margaret smiled. "Ellie," she said. Only Margaret called her Ellie. Eleanor almost cried right there. "It's me," Eleanor said. "I came to see you." "You're late," Margaret said. "You were supposed to come yesterday." Eleanor did not argue. She pulled a chair close to the wheelchair and sat down. "I'm sorry," she said. "I should have come sooner." Margaret reached out and touched Eleanor's hand. Her fingers were cold and bony. "Where's that husband of yours?" Margaret asked. "He's working," Eleanor said. "Daniel," Margaret said, and the name came out like a curse. "I never liked him." Eleanor said nothing. "Too quiet," Margaret continued. "Quiet men are dangerous. Your father was quiet. Look what he did." Eleanor's father had left when she was 7. He moved to Nevada and started a new family. He died 10 years ago. Eleanor did not go to the funeral. "That was a long time ago, Mom," Eleanor said. "Time doesn't matter," Margaret said. "Pain doesn't have a calendar." Eleanor squeezed her mother's hand. She wanted to ask if Margaret remembered the good things. The birthday cakes, the Christmas mornings, the trips to the beach. But she was afraid of the answer. "Where's Claire?" Margaret asked suddenly. "She started college yesterday," Eleanor said. "College," Margaret repeated. "She's too young for college." "She's 18, Mom." 18. Margaret shook her head. I was married at 18. Worst mistake of my life. Different times, Eleanor said. Bad times, Margaret said. All times are bad times. Don't let anyone tell you different. A nurse appeared in the doorway. She was holding a small paper cup of pills. Time for medication, Mrs. Turner, the nurse said. Margaret glared at the cup. Poison, she said. It's your heart medication, the nurse said gently. Poison, Margaret repeated. Eleanor took the cup from the nurse. I'll help her, Eleanor said. The nurse nodded and left. Eleanor held out the cup. Mom, please, just take them. Margaret looked at her daughter. For a moment, clarity returned to her eyes. You're tired, Ellie, Margaret said. I can see it. You have the same eyes I had at your age. Eleanor swallowed hard. Just take the pills, Mom. Margaret took the cup. She swallowed the pills one by one. She did not drink any water. There, Margaret said. Happy? Yes, Eleanor lied. Margaret looked out the window again. I had a dream about your father last night, she said. He was young. He was handsome. He was apologizing. What did he say? Eleanor asked. He said he was sorry for leaving. He said he made a mistake. Margaret paused. I told him to go to hell. Eleanor laughed despite herself. That sounds like you, Eleanor said. Damn right, Margaret said. Never forgive a man who leaves. That's my advice. Eleanor thought about Daniel. He had not left, but he was gone anyway. What about women who stay? Eleanor asked. That's worse, Margaret said. Staying kills you slowly, like a drip of water on a stone. Eventually, there's nothing left. Eleanor felt those words in her chest. They hurt because they were true. I should go soon, Eleanor said. Everyone always goes, Margaret said. Go, I don't care. But her hand tightened on Eleanor's. She did not let go for a long time. Eleanor stayed another hour. They did not talk much. Margaret drifted in and out of awareness. Sometimes she called Eleanor by her name. Sometimes she called her the nice lady. Once she called Eleanor Mother, which made Eleanor's stomach clench. When it was finally time to leave, Eleanor kissed her mother's forehead. The skin was paper-thin and warm. I love you, Mom, Eleanor said. Margaret did not answer. She was watching the bird again. Eleanor walked down the hallway. The smell of bleach followed her. She passed a room where an old man was singing to himself. She passed a room where a woman was crying. She passed the reception desk without saying goodbye to Denise. Outside, the sun was bright, too bright. Eleanor put on her sunglasses. She sat in her car for 5 minutes before starting the engine. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Hi, Mrs. Harper. This is Rachel Downey. I work with your husband. Do you have a momento talk? Eleanor read the message 3 times. She did not know anyone named Rachel Downey. She did not respond. She started the car and drove home. The house was empty. Daniel was at his fake meeting. Eleanor walked to the guest room where Daniel slept now. The door was closed. She never went in there. Today she opened it. The room was neat, too neat. The bed was made with military corners. There was a stack of books on the nightstand, all business books, no photos, no personal items. She opened the closet. His clothes hung in perfect rows. On the top shelf, a shoebox. Eleanor pulled it down. Inside were letters, handwritten letters, all from the same woman. The name on the letters was Rachel. Eleanor sat on the guest room floor with the shoebox in her lap. Her hands were steady. That surprised her. She expected trembling. She expected tears. Instead, she felt cold, empty, like someone had drained her blood and replaced it with silence. The first letter was dated 18 months ago. Rachel's handwriting was small and precise. No loops on the letters, no hearts dotting the I's. A professional woman. An architect. The first letter was innocent enough. Thank you for the meeting. Your feedback on the Henderson project was invaluable. Then a personal note at the bottom. You have a kind way of listening. Most men don't listen. Eleanor folded that letter carefully. She placed it on the carpet beside her. The second letter was dated 2 weeks later. I can't stop thinking about what you said regarding your marriage. You deserve to be happy, Daniel. Everyone does. Eleanor's jaw tightened. He had discussed their marriage with this stranger. He had never discussed their marriage with Eleanor, not once in the last 3 years. The third letter was shorter. Dinner was wonderful. I haven't laughed like that in years. You're different when you're not at work. Softer. Eleanor closed her eyes. She pictured Daniel laughing. She had not heard him laugh in months, maybe years. She could not remember the last time. She opened her eyes and continued reading. The letters became more intimate over time. Not graphic, but personal. They discussed fears, regrets, childhood wounds. Daniel had told Rachel about his father's drinking. Daniel had told Rachel about his fear of failure. Daniel had told Rachel things Eleanor never knew. Things Eleanor had asked about and been shut out from. The 10th letter was different. It was not from Rachel. It was from Daniel, a draft. He had written it and never sent it. The paper was crumpled. Eleanor smoothed it out with trembling fingers now. Rachel, I think about you constantly. I don't love my wife anymore. I don't even know if I ever did. She's a good person, but she's not for me. You make me feel alive. Eleanor makes me feel buried. Eleanor read that sentence 7 times. Eleanor makes me feel buried. She remembered the day they met, a coffee shop near the university. He spilled his drink on her textbook. He apologized for 10 minutes straight. She told him it was just a book. He said it was not just a book. It was her education, her future. He said he respected that. She fell in love with him right there, 25 years ago. Now she was a burial ground for his feelings. She put Daniel's unsent letter back in the box. She picked up the last letter from Rachel, dated 1 week ago. I'm tired of waiting. You said you would leave her. You said you would file for divorce. Every week you give me a new excuse. Claire graduated. Claire's birthday. Claire's college applications. Now Claire is gone. What's stopping you? If you don't tell her by the end of this month, I will. Elinor folded that letter last. She placed it on top of the pile. Then she sat very still. The carpet was beige. She had chosen that carpet 12 years ago. Daniel had said he did not care about the color. He never cared about the color of anything. That should have been a warning. She heard the front door open downstairs. Daniel was home. She listened to his footsteps. He walked to the kitchen. The refrigerator opened and closed. A cabinet opened. The sound of a glass being filled with water. He always drank water first when he came home. Then he checked his phone. Then he went to the guest room. That was his ritual. Today he would find her sitting on the floor. Today the ritual would break. Elinor stood up. She put the shoebox under her arm. She walked out of the guest room and stood at the top of the stairs. Daniel looked up from the kitchen. He saw the box. His face changed. Not shock, not guilt, something closer to relief. Elinor, he said. His voice was quiet. Don't, she said. She walked down the stairs slowly. Each step creaked. The house seemed to hold its breath. She stopped 3 steps from the bottom, close enough to see the small scar above his left eyebrow. He got that scar from a bicycle accident when he was 12. She knew that story. She knew many stories, apparently not the important ones. How long? Elinor asked. Nothing physical happened, Daniel said. That's not what I asked. He looked at the box in her hands. 18 months, he said, but it's not what you think. You wrote that you don't love me, Elinor said. You wrote that I make you feel buried. Those were your words. I think that's exactly what I think. Daniel said nothing. His silence was louder than any confession. I want you to leave, Elinor said. The house is in both our names, he said. I don't care about the house. I want you to leave tonight. Where would I go? Go to Rachel, Elinor said. Isn't that what you wanted? Daniel ran a hand through his hair. His hair was grayer than last year. She noticed everything. She always had. I never meant to hurt you, he said. That's the worst part, Elinor said. You didn't mean to, you just didn't care enough not to. She walked past him into the kitchen. She put the shoebox on the table. She opened the refrigerator and took out a bottle of white wine. She did not offer him a glass. She poured one for herself. The wine was cold and sharp. She drank half of it in one swallow. I'll pack a bag, Daniel said from the doorway. Do whatever you want, Elinor said. You always have. She heard him go upstairs. The guest room door opened. Drawers opened and closed, the sound of a zipper. She poured more wine. Her phone buzzed. A text from Claire. A photo of her dorm room. She had hung string lights above her bed. The caption, "Feels like home already, missing you a little." Elinor typed back, "Missing you more than a little, so proud of you." She did not mention Daniel. She did not mention the letters. She did not mention that her marriage was ending in the same week her daughter left for college. Some things you protect. Even when everything else is breaking. Daniel came downstairs with a small suitcase. He stopped in the living room. He looked at the mantel. The family photos were still there. Claire's school photos, their wedding photo, a picture of Elinor's mother from 20 years ago before the forgetting started. "I'm sorry," Daniel said again. "That word doesn't work anymore," Elinor said. "You used it up." He walked to the front door. He paused with his hand on the knob. "The Henderson project closes next week," he said. "I'll need to come by for some documents." "Send me a list," Elinor said. "I'll leave them on the porch." He nodded. He opened the door. The evening air was cool and smelled of wet grass. He stepped outside. Then he turned back. "Claire doesn't know," he said, "about any of this." "She won't hear it from me," Elinor said, "but you should tell her soon." "I will," he said. They both knew he was lying. The door closed. Elinor watched through the window as he loaded the suitcase into his car. He backed out of the driveway. The taillights disappeared down the street. She finished her wine. Then she walked to the mantel. She picked up the wedding photo. She looked at their younger faces. She looked at her own white dress. She looked at Daniel's nervous smile. She carried the photo to the kitchen trash can. She held it over the bin for a long time. Then she put it back on the mantel, not because she wanted to keep it, because she was not ready to throw it away. Not yet. Maybe tomorrow. 3 days passed before Elinor left the house. She did not answer phone calls. She did not open the blinds. She ate toast and nothing else. The wine bottle was empty by the second night. On the third morning, she took a long shower. She washed her hair for the first time since Daniel left. The hot water ran out before she was finished. She did not care. She dressed in jeans and an old sweater. The sweater had a small hole in the left sleeve. Daniel had always hated that sweater. She wore it deliberately. Her car started on the third try. The gas light was on. She drove to the nearest station and filled the tank. The attendant asked if she needed anything else. She said no. She drove toward the highway. She did not have a destination. She just needed to move. The landscape changed from suburbs to farmland. Cornfields stretched on both sides. The corn was dry and brown. It was almost harvest time. She remembered driving this same road with Claire. Claire was 7. They were going to a pumpkin patch. Claire sang a song about a spider for the entire hour. Elinor had pretended to be annoyed. She had loved every second. Now the passenger seat was empty. She drove for 45 minutes. Then she saw a sign for a state park. She turned left without signaling. The park road was narrow and winding. Trees arched overhead. The leaves were just beginning to turn gold. She parked near a small lake. 2 geese stood at the water's edge. They watched her with unblinking eyes. Elinor got out of the car. The air smelled like mud and fallen leaves. She walked to a wooden bench near the water. She sat down. The bench was damp from morning dew. She did not stand up. A man walked by with a golden retriever. The dog wagged its tail. The man nodded at Elinor. She nodded back. That was the entire conversation. It was enough. She watched the water for a long time. The surface was still. A single leaf drifted across it. She thought about Rachel's threat. If you don't tell her by the end of this month, I will. The month had 3 days left. Rachel would call, or visit, or write another letter. Eleanor needed to decide what to do first. Tell Claire before Rachel did, or let the stranger deliver the blow. She took out her phone. She opened Claire's contact. She typed, "Can you talk? Nothing urgent, just miss you." Claire replied immediately. "In class, call you tonight," Eleanor typed. "Perfect, love you." She put the phone away. She watched the geese. They had not moved. She envied them. Geese did not have to explain divorce to their children. Geese did not find love letters in shoeboxes. Geese just floated and ate and flew south. Simple. She stayed at the lake for 2 hours. When she returned to the car, she had a voicemail, not from Claire, from her brother-in-law, Stephen. "Eleanor, it's Stephen. Daniel called me. He said you two are separating." "I'm sorry to hear that. I'm also worried about Mom. Ruth, my mom, your mother-in-law, she's not doing well. Daniel isn't answering his phone. Can you call me?" Eleanor had not spoken to Ruth in nearly a year. Ruth was Daniel's mother. Ruth had never been warm to Eleanor, but she had never been cruel either. She was just absent, like her son. Eleanor saved Stephen's message. She did not call him back. She drove home. The house felt different now. Not empty. Silent. There is a difference. Empty is peaceful. Silent is waiting for something that never arrives. She walked through each room. She opened windows. The autumn air moved through the house. It carried the smell of burning leaves from a neighbor's yard. She stood in Claire's bedroom. The walls were still covered with posters. Bands Eleanor did not recognize. Movies Eleanor had never seen. A photo strip from a mall booth. Claire and her best friend Megan making silly faces. Claire was laughing in every frame, real laughter. The kind that crinkles the eyes. Eleanor touched the photo strip. She remembered driving Claire and Megan to the mall that day. She had given them $40 for lunch and movies. They had spent it all on the photo booth and ice cream. She had pretended to be angry. She was not angry. She was happy they were happy. That was the job, to pretend, to manage, to hold everything together while your own hands were shaking. Her phone rang. Claire's name appeared on the screen. Eleanor answered immediately. "Hey, sweetheart." "Hi, Mom. Sorry I couldn't talk earlier. Professor Williams is a nightmare. He locks the door at the start of class." Eleanor smiled. "That sounds illegal." "Probably. How are you? You sound weird." Eleanor hesitated. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3. "Just tired," Eleanor said. "The house is quiet without you." "Is Dad there?" Claire asked. The question landed like a stone in still water. "He's working late a lot," Eleanor said. "You know how he is." "Yeah," Claire said. "Always working." There was a pause. Eleanor could hear music in the background, someone laughing. A door closing. "I have to go," Claire said. "Dinner with my roommate, but I'll call you tomorrow. Promise. Okay, sweetheart, enjoy your dinner. Love you, Mom. Love you more. The call ended. Eleanor lowered the phone. She had lied. She had protected Claire from the truth. But protection and betrayal looked the same sometimes. She walked to the kitchen. She opened a drawer. Inside was a stack of takeout menus and old coupons. Beneath them, a folded piece of paper. It was a list she had made 5 years ago. Reasons to stay. She had written 10 items. 1, Claire needs a stable home. 2, we have a mortgage. 3, divorce is expensive. 4, my mother would be devastated. 5, I don't know how to be alone. 6, he's not violent. 7, he provides for us. 8, maybe it will get better. 9, everyone has problems. 10, I still love him somewhere. Deep down, Eleanor read the list. She crossed out number 10 with a pen. Then number 8, then number 5. Then she stopped. The list was old. The reasons were old. She was not the same woman who wrote those words. That woman was afraid. This woman had read the letters. This woman had thrown her husband out. This woman was sitting in her daughter's empty bedroom, wearing a sweater with a hole in the sleeve. This woman was still afraid, but fear was no longer running the show. She folded the list and put it back in the drawer. She closed the drawer gently. Then she opened her laptop. She searched for divorce attorneys in her county. The list was long. She picked one at random. A woman named Patricia Okonkwo. The reviews were good. Eleanor saved the number. She closed the laptop. She made herself a cup of tea. She drank it standing at the kitchen sink. The tea was chamomile. It did not calm her. Nothing calmed her, but she drank it anyway. Because drinking tea was something normal people did, and she wanted to feel normal, even for just 10 minutes. Patricia Okonkwo's office was on the 8th floor of a glass building downtown. Eleanor arrived 15 minutes early. She sat in the waiting area and flipped through a magazine. The articles were about celebrity marriages. She closed the magazine. The receptionist offered her water. She declined. A door opened. Patricia stepped out. She was tall, with short, natural hair and gold earrings. Her handshake was firm. "Ms. Harper, come in." The office was minimal. White walls. A single plant in the corner. No family photos. No personal clutter. Patricia sat behind a glass desk. She opened a notebook. "Tell me what's happening," she said. Eleanor told her everything: the letters, the guest room. Daniel's unsent words about feeling buried. Rachel's deadline. Patricia listened without interrupting. She took notes in a small, tight script. When Eleanor finished, Patricia leaned back. "Has he been physically violent at any point?" "No." "Has he threatened you?" "No, he barely talks to me." Patricia nodded. "That's actually more common than people think. Silence as abandonment. The courts recognize it." Eleanor had not thought of it that way. Abandonment. Yes, that was the word. "You live in a marital home," Patricia continued. "Both names on the deed?" "Yes." "Any significant debt besides the mortgage?" "Claire's tuition, but we have a fund for that. Good, that helps. Patricia explained the process: filing for separation, financial disclosure, mediation if possible, trial if not. She used words like equitable distribution and temporary support. Elinor's head spun, but she listened. She took her own notes on her phone. "One more question," Patricia said. "Does your daughter know?" "Not yet. You should tell her before we file. She's an adult. She'll find out anyway. Better from you than from a process server." Elinor nodded. The thought made her stomach hurt. "I'll tell her this weekend," Elinor said. "Good," Patricia said. "I'll prepare the initial paperwork. Don't move money out of joint accounts without telling me first. Don't leave the house unless you're in danger. Don't sign anything he gives you." Elinor agreed. She signed a retainer agreement. She wrote a check for $5,000. Her hand did not shake. She was proud of that. When she left the building, the sun was directly overhead. She walked 2 blocks to a small diner. She ordered a hamburger and French fries. She had not eaten a hamburger in years. Daniel did not like red meat. She ate the entire thing. The fries were salty and perfect. She paid in cash. Then she drove to the nursing home. Margaret was asleep when Elinor arrived. Her mouth was open. Her chest rose and fell slowly. Elinor pulled a chair to the bedside. She sat for 30 minutes without speaking. When Margaret woke, she did not recognize Elinor at first. "Who are you?" Margaret asked. "It's Ellie, Mom." Margaret squinted. "Ellie is dead." "No, Mom, I'm right here." Margaret reached up and touched Elinor's face. Her fingers traced Elinor's cheekbone. "You have her nose," Margaret said, "but you're not her." Elinor did not argue. Arguing with Alzheimer was like arguing with the tide. "I'm leaving Daniel," Elinor said. Margaret blinked. "Daniel," she repeated. "The quiet one." "Yes." "Good," Margaret said. "I told you." Quiet men are dangerous. "He had an emotional affair," Elinor said. She did not know why she was telling her mother this. Her mother would not remember in an hour. Maybe that was the point. A confession that would disappear. "Affair," Margaret said. "Your father had affairs, many of them. I pretended not to know." "I'm not pretending," Elinor said. "Good," Margaret said again. Then her eyes drifted. "Where's my bird?" "What bird?" "The yellow one. He comes to the window. He sings to me." Elinor looked at the window. No bird. "Maybe he'll come back tomorrow." Elinor said. "Maybe," Margaret said. She closed her eyes. "I'm tired, Ellie, wherever you are." "I'm here, Mom." "Good, stay there, don't leave." Margaret fell asleep holding Elinor's hand. Elinor stayed until visiting hours ended. A nurse gently asked her to leave. She kissed Margaret's forehead. She walked to her car. Her phone had 4 missed calls, all from Stephen. She called him back. "Elinor, thank God. Where's Daniel?" "I don't know, Stephen. We're separated. He didn't tell you." "He said you were separating. He didn't say he moved out." "He moved out." A pause. "I'm sorry," Stephen said. "I really am." But Elinor, Mom fell again. This time she broke her hip. She's in the hospital. Daniel won't answer my calls or texts. Can you please talk to him? She's asking for him. Ruth was asking for Daniel, the mother who raised him, the woman who taught him to ride a bike, the woman who paid for his college. And he was ignoring her. I'll try, Eleanor said. Thank you, I'll send you the hospital details. The call ended. Eleanor stared at her phone. She had no desire to help Daniel. But Ruth was a human being, a broken hip human being, and Claire loved her grandmother. If Ruth died and Claire found out her father had ignored the calls, Claire would never forgive him. That was not Eleanor's problem, but Claire's pain was Eleanor's pain. Always, she called Daniel's number. He answered on the fourth ring. Eleanor. Your mother broke her hip. She's in the hospital. Stephen has been trying to reach you. Silence. Daniel, I'm here. Did you hear me? I heard you. Are you going to see her? I don't know. She's asking for you. Another silence. Longer this time. Daniel, whatever is happening between us, that's your mother. She won't live forever. You don't know what she did, Daniel said. His voice was strange, hard and soft at the same time. What do you mean? Eleanor asked. Nothing, forget it, I'll call Stephen. He hung up. Eleanor sat in her car. The sun was low now. Long shadows stretched across the parking lot. She had been married to Daniel for 23 years. She thought she knew everything about him, but he had hidden Rachel. And now he was hiding something about Ruth, a secret, a wound, something he had never shared, not with Eleanor, not with Stephen probably, maybe not with anyone. She started the engine. She drove home. On the kitchen counter, a letter had been pushed under the back door. Handwritten, female handwriting, not Rachel's, older, shakier. The envelope said Eleanor in pencil. Inside, a single sheet of notebook paper. I know about Daniel and Rachel. I've known for months. Meet me at the diner on Main Street tomorrow at 2 p.m. Don't tell Daniel. Ruth. Eleanor read the letter 3 times. Daniel's mother, lying in a hospital bed with a broken hip, writing letters by hand, summoning Eleanor to a secret meeting. The day kept getting stranger. She folded the letter and put it in her pocket. Then she went upstairs. She took off the sweater with the hole. She folded it neatly and placed it on the chair. She put on her nightgown. She brushed her teeth. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her eyes were tired, but they were clear. She was not hiding anymore, not from Claire, not from Ruth, not from the truth. Tomorrow she would drive to the diner. Tomorrow she would hear what Ruth had to say. Tonight she would sleep. She turned off the light. The house settled around her. The silence was different now. Not waiting, not empty, just quiet. She closed her eyes. She slept until morning. The diner on Main Street was nearly empty at 2 p.m. Eleanor chose a booth near the back. She ordered coffee and waited. The door opened 15 minutes late. Ruth Harper limped inside using a metal cane. Her left leg was in a brace. Her face was pale and her eyes were red. She looked every year of her 78 years. Elinor stood up. You should be in the hospital, Elinor said. I sign myself out, Ruth said, against medical advice. The doctors were very angry. Ruth slid into the booth across from Elinor. She winced as she moved her leg. You broke your hip, Elinor said. You need rest. I need to talk to you, Ruth said. Rest can wait. The waitress came. Ruth ordered black coffee and apple pie. The waitress left. Ruth stared at Elinor. You look thin, Ruth said. You look like you escaped from a hospital, Elinor said. A small smile crossed Ruth's lips. Fair enough. Elinor waited. Ruth pulled an envelope from her purse. It was worn and folded many times. I've been carrying this for 20 years, Ruth said. I should have given it to you on your wedding day. What is it? A letter from Daniel's father. Elinor frowned. Daniel's father died when Daniel was 19. He had a heart attack. That's what everyone believes, Ruth said. It's not true. The waitress returned with coffee and pie. Ruth waited until she left again. My husband did not die of a heart attack, Ruth said. He killed himself. In our garage, I found him. Elinor's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. Why are you telling me this? Because Daniel knows, Ruth said. He came home from college that weekend. He saw the ambulance. He saw me being questioned by the police. He figured it out. I never confirmed it, but he knew. Elinor set the cup down. Her hand was shaking now. Daniel has never mentioned this. Not once in 23 years. Of course not, Ruth said. He was 19 years old. He worshipped his father. And then his father left him in the worst possible way. Without a note, without an explanation, just a rope and a garage. Ruth pushed the envelope across the table. The letter is from my husband. He wrote it the night before. He gave it to a neighbor to deliver after he was gone. The neighbor was too afraid. She gave it to me 10 years later. She was dying of cancer. She wanted to clear her conscience. Elinor did not touch the envelope. What does the letter say? It says he was sorry. It says he loved Daniel. It says he couldn't live with his own demons anymore. And it says one other thing. Ruth paused. She took a bite of pie. She chewed slowly. Elinor wanted to scream. What other thing? Elinor asked. He had another family, Ruth said. A woman in Tampa, a son. Daniel has a half-brother he's never met. The words landed like physical blows. Elinor felt the air leave her lungs. That's why Daniel moved us to this town, Ruth continued. He wanted to be close to Tampa. He wanted to find his half-brother. He never did, or maybe he did. He stopped talking to me about it 15 years ago. Elinor thought about Daniel's late nights. His silence, his distance. She had always blamed herself, her dull conversation, her nagging, her failure to keep him interested. But he had been carrying this. A father who chose death. A secret brother, a mother who lied for decades. Why are you telling me now? Elinor asked. Because Daniel is repeating the pattern, Ruth said. He's running, he's hiding. He's lying to you and to Claire, and he's found another woman to distract himself, just like his father. Rachel? Yes, Rachel is his escape, just like the woman in Tampa was my husband's escape. Elinor finally touched the envelope. She slid it closer. She did not open it. This doesn't excuse what he did to me, Elinor said. No, Ruth agreed. It doesn't, but you deserve to know the truth, the whole truth, not just the part where he failed you, the part where he was broken long before he met you. Elinor looked at Ruth. This woman had lost her husband to suicide. She had raised 2 sons alone. She had lied to protect them. And now she was sitting in a diner with a broken hip, eating apple pie, tearing down the last walls of her own lies. Does Stephen know? Elinor asked. No, Stephen was 12 when his father died. I told him it was a heart attack. I never corrected it. Stephen still believes the lie. You should tell him. Maybe, Ruth said, but not today. Today I'm telling you because you're the only person left who might still save Daniel from himself. I don't want to save him, Elinor said. I want a divorce. Ruth nodded slowly. I understand, but Claire is still his daughter. If Daniel self-destructs completely, Claire will be collateral damage, you know that. Elinor hated how right Ruth was. Claire loved her father, flawed, distant, silent Daniel. Claire still called him every Sunday. Claire still defended him when Elinor hinted at problems. If Daniel fell apart, Claire would try to catch him. And she would break herself in the process. What do you want me to do? Elinor asked. Talk to him, Ruth said, not as his wife, as Claire's mother. Tell him to get help, therapy. A priest, a support group, I don't care what, but he needs to face what his father did. Otherwise, he'll end up just as alone. He already is alone, Elinor said. No, Ruth said. He has you. Even now, even after everything, you're still here. That means something. Elinor wanted to argue, but she stayed silent. She opened the envelope. She read the letter. The handwriting was neat. Old-fashioned, the words were desperate. Dear Ruth, I'm sorry I wasn't the man you deserved. Tell Daniel I love him. Tell Stephen I love him too. Tell them I was sick, not evil, just sick. There's a woman in Tampa. Her name is Maria. She has a son. His name is Carlos. He's Daniel's half-brother. I've been sending money. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Goodbye. Elinor folded the letter carefully. She placed it back in the envelope. She handed it to Ruth. Keep it, Ruth said. I don't want it anymore. Elinor put the envelope in her purse. She would not keep it forever, but she would keep it for now. Thank you for telling me, Elinor said. Don't thank me, Ruth said. I should have told you 20 years ago I was a coward. You were protecting your son. I was protecting myself, Ruth said. From shame, from pity, from the neighbors' whispers. She finished her pie. She drank the rest of her coffee. I need to go back to the hospital, Ruth said. The nurses are going to murder me. I'll drive you, Elinor said. They walked to Elinor's car. Ruth moved slowly. Each step cost her visible pain. In the car, Ruth stared out the window. Daniel used to climb trees when he was little, Ruth said. He was fearless. He fell out of an oak tree when he was 6, broke his arm. He didn't cry. He just looked at me and said, "I'll climb higher next time, Mom." Eleanor smiled despite herself. "That sounds like him," Eleanor said. "He never stopped climbing," Ruth said. "He just stopped telling anyone where he was going." Eleanor pulled into the hospital parking lot. She helped Ruth out of the car. She walked her to the entrance. A nurse rushed over, scolding Ruth gently. Ruth ignored her. She grabbed Eleanor's hand. "Don't let him disappear," Ruth said. "Please." Eleanor nodded. She watched the nurse lead Ruth away. Then she walked back to her car. She sat in the driver's seat. She took out her phone. She texted Daniel. "We need to talk, not about the divorce." "It's about your father, I know." Daniel did not reply to Eleanor's text for 6 hours. She spent those hours cleaning the garage. She threw away old paint cans and broken garden tools. She found Claire's first bicycle, rusted and small. She leaned it against the wall instead of discarding it. Some things deserved to stay. At 8:47 p.m., her phone buzzed. Daniel's message was brief. "Where?" she typed back. "The house. Tomorrow at 11. "Fine." That was the entire conversation. She slept poorly. Dreams of ropes and garages and unknown half-brothers. She woke at 5 a.m. and made coffee. She sat on the back porch and watched the sunrise. The sky turned pink, then orange, then blue. She dressed carefully. Not for Daniel, for herself. A blue blouse Daniel had always disliked. He said it made her look severe. Good, she wanted to look severe. At 10:55 a.m., a car pulled into the driveway. Daniel was driving a rental. His car was probably still in the garage he now rented. He walked to the front door without looking at the house. He did not knock. He used his old key. Eleanor was sitting in the living room. She did not stand up to greet him. He stood in the doorway. He looked thinner. His shirt was wrinkled. His eyes had dark circles beneath them. "You look terrible," Eleanor said. "You look the same," he said. That was not true, but she let it pass. "Sit down," she said. He sat on the edge of the armchair across from her. He did not relax. He never relaxed anymore. "What do you know?" he asked. "Your mother told me everything," Eleanor said. "The garage, the letter, the half-brother in Tampa named Carlos." Daniel's face went white. Not pale, white, like paper, like snow, like a man who had just been punched in the chest. "She had no right," he whispered. "She had every right," Eleanor said. "It was her secret, too. And she's dying, Daniel. Did you know that? The hip is just the beginning. They found something on her liver, cancer. They don't know how bad yet." Daniel put his head in his hands. He did not cry, but his shoulders shook. Eleanor watched him. She felt something she had not expected. Not love, not pity exactly. Something closer to recognition. She recognized a broken man because she had been living with one for years. "Why didn't you tell me?" Eleanor asked. "Because I'm ashamed," he said into his hands. "My father killed himself. He had a second family. He left my mother with nothing. I've been carrying that since I was 19 years old. I thought if I told you, you would see me differently. See you how? See me as damaged, as broken, as someone who came from poison. Eleanor leaned forward. Daniel, everyone comes from something. My mother is losing her mind in a nursing home. My father abandoned us when I was 7. We are all damaged. That's not an excuse for what you did to me. He looked up. His eyes were red. I know, he said. I know it's not an excuse. I'm not asking for an excuse. I'm just explaining. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. An excuse says I shouldn't be held responsible. An explanation says I am responsible, but here's why I made the choices I made. Eleanor considered this. He was not wrong, but being right and being forgiven were two different things. Did you find him? Eleanor asked. Carlos, Daniel nodded slowly. 15 years ago. I found him through a private investigator. He lives in Tampa. He's a mechanic. He has 2 kids. He never knew about my father. His mother never told him who the father was. Did you meet him? No, I watched him from a distance. I saw him at his shop. I saw him with his children. I wanted to walk up to him and say, I'm your brother. But I couldn't. I was too afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid he would reject me. Afraid he would want money. Afraid he would tell everyone. Afraid of everything. Eleanor stood up. She walked to the window. The driveway was empty except for Daniel's rental car. She turned back to face him. Rachel knew about any of this? No, Rachel knew nothing about my father, nothing about Carlos. She just knew I was unhappy in my marriage. And you were unhappy because of me, or because of the ghost of your father. Daniel was quiet for a long time. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked. Eleanor had always hated that clock. Daniel had inherited it from his mother. Now it seemed to mock them both. Both, Daniel finally said. But mostly the ghost, Eleanor laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had just solved a puzzle she did not want to solve. 23 years, she said. 23 years of marriage, and you never once told me that you were haunted. You let me believe I was the problem. You let me twist myself into knots trying to please you. I changed my hair. I changed my cooking. I changed the way I spoke, and all along you were just running from a ghost. I'm sorry, he said. Stop saying that. Words are cheap. You had 23 years to say it when it mattered. Now it's just air. Daniel stood up. He walked toward her. She stepped back. Don't, she said. He stopped. I'm not going to touch you, he said. I just want to say one thing. Say it. I still love you. I never stopped. I just forgot how to show it. I buried myself in work and in silence because I didn't know how to be present. My father was present. He was charming and warm, and everyone loved him. And then he killed himself, so I decided to be the opposite. Distant, cold, unreachable. That way, I thought, no one would miss me if I disappeared. Eleanor felt tears burning behind her eyes. She refused to let them fall. You did disappear, she said. You disappeared years ago. I've been living with a hollow man. And I'm tired, Daniel. I'm so tired. I know. You don't know. You can't know. You weren't the one lying awake at night wondering what you did wrong. You weren't the one looking at other couples in restaurants and feeling like a failure. You weren't the one who had to pretend to Claire that everything was fine when nothing was fine. Daniel sat down again. He looked small in the armchair, the same chair where he used to read bedtime stories to Claire, the same chair where he had fallen asleep holding her when she was a baby. Now it was just a chair, and he was just a man, a broken, frightened, foolish man. "What do you want from me?" he asked. "I want you to get help," Eleanor said. "Real help. A therapist who specializes in family trauma. I want you to tell Claire the truth about your father before someone else does. And I want you to leave me alone while I decide what I want for the rest of my life." "You already decided," he said. "You talked to a divorce lawyer." She was not surprised he knew. Small towns, small secrets. "Yes," she said, "I did, but I haven't filed yet. I'm giving myself time, time to think, time to breathe, time to figure out who I am without you. And Claire. Claire is my priority. She always has been. She always will be. If getting you help protects her from more pain, then I'll help you find that help. But I won't do it as your wife. I'll do it as the mother of your child." Daniel nodded. He stood up again. He walked to the door. He paused with his hand on the knob. "My mother," he said, "is she really sick?" "Yes," Eleanor said. "She needs you. Please don't let her die alone." He opened the door. He stepped outside. The autumn air rushed in. "Thank you," he said without turning around. "Don't thank me," Eleanor said. "Just show up." He walked to his car. He drove away. Eleanor closed the door. She leaned against it. The tears finally came. She cried for 20 minutes. Then she washed her face. She called Patricia Okonkwo. "I need to pause the divorce filing," Eleanor said. "Not cancel, just pause. Give me 30 days. Patricia agreed. Eleanor hung up. She looked at the grandfather clock. She walked over to it. She opened the glass door. She stopped the pendulum. The ticking stopped. The silence was different now. It was not waiting. It was not empty. It was the silence of a woman who had finally stopped running from the truth, even if the truth was ugly, even if the truth hurt. The truth was hers now, and she would decide what to do with it. Claire came home for the first time on a Friday afternoon in October. Michael dropped her off in the pickup truck. He waved at Eleanor from the driver's seat. Eleanor waved back. She did not invite him inside. Claire walked up the driveway with a duffel bag over her shoulder. Her hair was shorter. She had new earrings. She looked older. College had already changed her. "You cut your hair," Eleanor said. "My roommate talked me into it," Claire said. "Do you hate it?" "I love it." They hugged for a long time. Claire smelled like lavender and something else. Perfume, new perfume, not the drugstore brand she used in high school, something expensive, something adult. Inside, Claire dropped her bag in the hallway. She walked through the house slowly. She touched the walls. She looked at the photographs. Something is different, Claire said. Elinor's heart skipped. What do you mean? The clock, Claire said. It stopped. Elinor had forgotten about the grandfather clock. She had stopped the pendulum 2 weeks ago. She had not restarted it. I need to get it repaired, Elinor said. It's old. Claire nodded. She did not push, but she noticed things. She always had. They sat in the kitchen. Elinor made grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, Claire's favorite since childhood. Claire ate hungrily. Michael's parents are getting a divorce, Claire said between bites. Elinor put down her spoon. I'm sorry to hear that. He's handling it okay, Claire said, but his mom is a mess. She cries all the time. Michael doesn't know what to say to her. That's hard, Elinor said, for both of them. Claire looked at her mother directly, without blinking. Mom, are you and Dad okay? The question hung in the air. Elinor could lie. She had lied before, many times, but Claire was not a child anymore, and lies had a way of becoming walls. We're going through a difficult time, Elinor said carefully. What does that mean? It means we're trying to figure things out. Figure what things out? Elinor took a breath. She had promised herself she would be honest. But honest did not mean dumping everything at once. Honest meant measured. Honest meant gentle. Your father and I have been unhappy for a while, Elinor said. We've been living more like roommates than spouses, and recently, some things came to light that made me realize how far apart we've grown. Claire set down her sandwich. Her hands were steady. Her voice was steady. Did one of you cheat? Elinor chose her next words with care. Your father developed a close emotional connection with another woman. It wasn't physical, as far as I know, but it was a betrayal of trust. Claire stared at the table. Her jaw tightened. Who is she? Someone he worked with, an architect named Rachel. Does Dad love her? I don't know, Elinor said. I don't think he knows either. Claire pushed her plate away. She stood up. She walked to the window. Her back was to Elinor. I always thought it was you, Claire said quietly. What do you mean? I thought you were the one who didn't love him anymore. You always seemed so distant, so tired. I thought you were the problem. Elinor felt those words like knives, but she did not defend herself. She did not explain. She just listened. I'm sorry you thought that, Elinor said. Claire turned around. Her eyes were wet. I'm not blaming you, Mom. I'm just saying I didn't see it. I didn't see any of it. I was too busy with school and Michael and my own life. I didn't notice that my parents were falling apart. You were a child, Elinor said. It wasn't your job to notice. I'm not a child anymore. No, you're not, which is why I'm telling you the truth now, not all of it. Some things are between me and your father, but enough of it. Claire came back to the table. She sat down. She picked up her sandwich. She took a bite, chewed, swallowed. Are you going to divorce him? I don't know yet. I've talked to a lawyer, but I haven't filed. I'm giving myself time. Does Dad know? Yes, we've talked. Not easily, but we've talked. Claire nodded slowly. She finished her sandwich. She drank the rest of her soup. Then she looked at Elinor again. I want to talk to him, Claire said. Alone, can you give me his number? He hasn't been answering my calls. Eleanor wrote Daniel's new number on a napkin. Claire folded it and put it in her pocket. I'm not going to pick sides, Claire said. I love you both. But I need to hear what he has to say. That's fair, Eleanor said. They cleaned the kitchen together. Claire washed. Eleanor dried. They worked in silence, but it was not an angry silence. It was the silence of two people who had just crossed a threshold. After the dishes, Claire went upstairs to her old room. Eleanor heard her open the door. She heard Claire laugh at something. Probably the posters. Probably the photo strip. Eleanor sat in the living room. She looked at the stopped clock. She thought about time, how it moves even when you want it to stop, how it stops when you want it to move. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. Mrs. Harper, this is Rachel Downey again. I know you've seen the letters. I think we should meet. I think there are things you need to know about Daniel that he won't tell you. Eleanor read the message twice. Rachel was persistent. Rachel was also afraid. That was clear from the desperation in her words. Eleanor typed back. I know about his father. I know about Carlos. If you have something else to say it now in a text. I won't meet you. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then the message came. Daniel has been seeing a therapist for the past 2 weeks. He didn't tell you, did he? He's trying to change. I'm telling you this because I'm stepping back. I told him yesterday that I can't be his escape anymore. He needs to face his life, not hide in mine. Eleanor stared at the screen. Daniel in therapy. Daniel trying. She had not known. He had not told her. But maybe that was the point. Maybe he was not doing it for her. Maybe he was finally doing it for himself. She typed back, "Thank you for telling me, and thank you for stepping back." Rachel replied with a single word, "Goodbye." Eleanor blocked the number. She went upstairs. Claire's door was closed. She could hear Claire's voice through the wood. She was on the phone, probably with Daniel. Eleanor did not eavesdrop. She went to her own room. She lay down on the bed. The ceiling was white. There was a small crack in the plaster. She had never noticed it before. Now she saw it every time she lay down, a crack, like her marriage. Like her family, but cracks could be repaired, or they could be left as maps of what had been broken. She closed her eyes. She heard Claire laugh through the wall, a real laugh. Not the fake one she used at family dinners. The laugh meant something good had happened. Daniel had said something right, for once. Eleanor smiled. She did not know what the future held. Divorce, separation, reconciliation, all of it was still possible, all of it was still uncertain. But Claire had laughed, and that was enough for tonight. She fell asleep with the lights on. She woke at 3 a.m. The house was dark. Claire's door was open. The bathroom light was on. Claire was sitting on the edge of the tub, crying quietly. Eleanor sat next to her. She put an arm around her daughter. "He told me about his father," Claire whispered. "About the suicide, about the half-brother." "I know," Eleanor said. Why didn't anyone tell me before? Because we were trying to protect you. From what? From the truth that some families are built on broken things. Claire leaned her head on Aliner's shoulder. I'm not broken, Claire said. No, Aliner said, you're not. You're the best thing that came from all of this. They sat in the bathroom until the sky began to lighten. Then they went back to bed. In the morning, Aliner made pancakes. Claire ate 3. She hugged her mother goodbye. Michael's truck was already in the driveway. Call me every day, Aliner said. I will, Claire said. She climbed into the truck. She waved through the window. Aliner waved back. The truck drove away. Aliner went inside. She walked to the grandfather clock. She restarted the pendulum. Tick, tick, tick. Time moved again. She was ready. 2 weeks passed before Aliner saw Daniel again. She did not seek him out. He did not come to the house. Their communication existed entirely through text messages about bills and Claire. Then Ruth called. Daniel had collapsed at his mother's hospital bedside. Not a heart attack, not a stroke. A panic attack so severe that the nurses called an ambulance. Aliner drove to the hospital without thinking. She found Daniel in a small examination room. He was sitting on a gurney wearing a hospital gown. His face was gray. An IV dripped fluids into his arm. A young doctor stood nearby, reviewing a chart. What happened? Aliner asked. The doctor looked up. Severe anxiety attack, dehydration. He hasn't been eating. His blood pressure was dangerously low. Aliner looked at Daniel. He would not meet her eyes. Can he go home? Aliner asked. We want to keep him overnight for observation, the doctor said. But yes, he's not in critical condition. The doctor left. Aliner pulled a plastic chair next to the gurney. She sat down. The room smelled of antiseptic and fear. You're not eating, Aliner said. I've been busy, Daniel said. Busy doing what? Destroying yourself? He finally looked at her. His eyes were bloodshot. I've been going to therapy, he said, twice a week. It's harder than I thought. We're talking about things I buried for 30 years. I know about the therapy, Aliner said. Rachel told me. Daniel flinched at the name. You talked to her. She texted me. She said she was stepping back. I believed her. Daniel nodded slowly. She meant it, he said. She hasn't contacted me in weeks. I think she finally realized I was using her. Using her to do what? To feel something other than guilt, other than shame. When I was with her, I could pretend I was someone else. Someone who wasn't haunted by a dead father and a failing marriage. Aliner folded her hands in her lap. She had imagined this conversation many times. In her imagination, she was angry. She yelled. She threw things. But now, sitting in a sterile hospital room, she felt no anger. Only exhaustion. Only the dull weight of years. Your mother told me something else, Aliner said, the day we met at the diner. She said you used to climb trees when you were little. You fell out of an oak tree and broke your arm. You didn't cry. You just said you'd climb higher next time. Daniel closed his eyes. I remember that tree, he said. It was in our backyard. My father cut it down a year later. He said it was dangerous, but I think he just didn't want me to climb it again. Why not? Because climbing meant falling, and falling meant getting hurt, and he couldn't stand to see me hurt. It was the only thing he was ever gentle about. Elena reached out. She touched Daniel's hand. He opened his eyes. I'm not going to pretend that everything is fine, Elena said. It's not. You broke something important between us, maybe permanently. But I'm not going to watch you die. Claire needs her father, not a ghost. I've been a ghost for years, Daniel said. That's the worst part. I've been haunting my own life. Then stop haunting and start living. How? I don't know. That's your work, not mine. Your therapist gets paid to answer that question. I don't. Daniel laughed weakly. It was the first time Elena had heard him laugh in months. The sound was rusty, unfamiliar, but real. You always were honest with me, he said, even when I didn't deserve it. Honesty is overrated, Elena said. Kindness is harder. I'm trying to be kind right now. Don't mistake it for forgiveness. I won't. They sat in silence. A monitor beeped steadily beside the bed. Outside the window, the sun was setting. The sky turned the same pink and orange Elena had watched from her back porch. I've been thinking about Carlos, Daniel said suddenly. Your half-brother? Yes, I've been thinking about reaching out to him, properly, not watching him from a distance like a stalker, actually introducing myself. What stopped you before? Cowardice, shame, fear of rejection, take your pick. And now I'm sitting in a hospital gown because my body gave up before my mind did. That's not a good sign. I need to do something brave, something my father never did. Elena considered this. Your father wrote a letter, she said. That took courage, not enough, but some. It wasn't courage, Daniel said. It was escape. He took the easy way out. A letter is not a life. Elena had no argument for that. She stood up. I need to go, she said. I'll tell your mother you're stable. She's worried. Tell her I'm sorry, Daniel said, for everything, for being a bad son, a bad husband, a barely present father. Tell her yourself, Elena said. She's down the hall, room 412. The nurses said she's been asking for you every hour. Daniel looked at his IV, at his hospital gown, at his pale hands. I can't walk down there like this. Then roll, there's a wheelchair in the corner. Elena pointed. Daniel stared at the wheelchair. Then he looked at Elena. Why are you helping me? Because I made a vow once, for better or for worse. I don't believe in that vow anymore, but I believe in not being cruel, and leaving you alone in this room would be cruel. Daniel swung his legs off the gurney. He winced as his feet touched the cold floor. He stood up slowly. Elena brought him the wheelchair. He sat down without arguing. She pushed him down the hallway, past the nurse's station, past rooms filled with sleeping patients, to room 412. Ruth was awake. Her face lit up when she saw Daniel, then her face crumpled. She started to cry. Daniel reached out from the wheelchair. He took his mother's hand. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said. "I'm so sorry." Ruth shook her head. "You're here now," she said. "That's what matters." Eleanor stepped back. She leaned against the doorframe. She watched mother and son hold hands. She watched them cry together. She watched them speak in whispers. She did not belong in that room, not anymore, maybe not ever again, but she had brought them together. That was enough. She turned and walked down the hallway. She passed the young doctor from earlier. He nodded at her. She nodded back. She took the elevator to the parking garage. The air was cold and sharp. She got into her car. She sat for a moment. Then she took out her phone. She called Patricia Okonkwo. "I'm ready to file," Eleanor said. "Not tomorrow, not next week. Tonight, send me the papers." Patricia did not ask questions. She simply said, "I'll email them within the hour." Eleanor hung up. She started the car. She drove home. The house was dark. She turned on the kitchen light. She sat at the table. She waited for the email. It arrived at 7:32 p.m. She printed the documents on the old printer in the home office. The printer jammed twice. She fixed it both times. She read every page. She signed her name where indicated. She dated each signature. Then she placed the papers in a large envelope. She wrote Patricia's address on the front. She would mail it in the morning. She went upstairs. She looked at the bedroom she had once shared with Daniel. The bed was made. The pillows were fluffed. The room was clean, but it was no longer a shared space. It was her room now, her bed, her pillows, her life. She changed into her nightgown. She brushed her teeth. She looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back had gray hair at her temples. She had lines around her eyes. She had a small scar on her chin from a bicycle accident when she was 12, her own bicycle accident. She had cried. She had run inside to her mother. Margaret had held her and said, "You'll be fine, Ellie. Scars just mean you've lived." Eleanor touched the scar. She turned off the bathroom light. She got into bed. The sheets were cold. She pulled the blanket to her chin. She closed her eyes. She thought about Daniel in his hospital room. She thought about Ruth holding his hand. She thought about Claire laughing in the bathroom at 3 a.m. She thought about the divorce papers in the envelope downstairs. She thought about all of it, and then she stopped thinking. She slept. No dreams, no nightmares, just darkness, just rest. Just the quiet of a woman who had finally made a decision.